There have been no shortage of fan theories about what happened to Fredbear's Family Diner after the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 4. In recent years, the idea that the location actually ended up being turned into Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, the location featured in FNaF 6, became more prominent after the release of Security Breach. Other theories have speculated the pizzeria from the second game was originally Fredbear's, or more recently, maybe even Fazbear's Fright was at one time Fredbear's. But today, we're here to talk about another theory regarding Fredbear's Family Diner, which is the idea that the location from the very first game, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, that we played through, was actually the same pizzeria we find ourselves in during FNaF 4. Now, I'm not the first one to come up with this theory, it's been around for a while, and I used to mostly dismiss it. However, after looking into it, and actually evaluating the evidence, I think it actually has a lot going for it, especially with the new media we've received in the past year. So what I'm proposing today is the idea that Fredbear's Family Diner, after it closed in FNaF 4 due to the Big Bite, was then converted into the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is also the FNaF 1 location. So we first have to take a look at these two locations from a timeline perspective. The Fredbear restaurants seem to have been open since the 1970s at least, since we've seen posters and pizza boxes for it in Secret of the Mimic, which takes place in 1979. Thanks to the Faz coins we get in both Help Wanted games, and the Faz fact we get in the official cookbook, we know that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opened in 1983. Freddy's first opening in 1983 is an interesting choice by Scott, since this is the same year Fredbear's is implied to have closed down, due to the Bite of 83. We're not given specific dates of when in 1983 Freddy's opens and when Fredbear's closes, but it is interesting that during FNaF 4's events, prior to the Bite, we see a Fredbear and Friends TV show that shows Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy all shown as characters in a Fredbear's themed show. When Security Breach was being released, we were exposed to another TV show in universe called Freddy and Friends on Tour. These two shows have extremely similar names, with the difference being that now Freddy Fazbear is the main star of the show, and Fredbear is absent from the cast. I think this could imply that after the Big Bite, Fredbear's Family Diner closed down and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opened, and the Fredbear and Friends TV show was replaced with Freddy and Friends on Tour. Fredbear being replaced as the main star of the show and being removed could be due to the bad PR he would have after the Bite. Not to mention, Freddy's is called the successor to Fredbear's multiple times in the week before. But what is the evidence that the Freddy Fazbear Pizza building and Fredbear's Family Diner are the same? Let's go back to one of our first exposures to Fredbear's Family Diner, FNaF 3's Stage 01 minigame. This is implied to be Fredbear's due to Spring Bonnie and Fredbear being the only ones on stage, and it also is called Stage 01, implying it comes first. This could also connect to Fredbear's loading screen in FNaF World, which says that Fredbear was where it all started. The minigame itself is very simplistic. It's Fredbear and Spring Bonnie performing on stage for a group of children. But something we see in the background of this stage are three clouds. Minigames are known to exaggerate details, but what if this isn't random? Remember, this is called Stage 01, meaning that this would imply that those clouds actually belong to this stage. In FNaF 1, we can see the animatronics all on stage performing together, and then we can actually see these three clouds behind them on stage. It's a small but interesting detail that could imply a connection between these two stages. Now let's take a look at the FNaF 4 minigames, specifically the minigame on Night 4, which depicts the crying child locked inside of a parts and service room, begging to be let out. This room actually bears a striking resemblance to the back room in the very first game. As we can see, both rooms contain shelves that hold mascot heads for their animatronics, and endoskeleton parts on the table. The similar layout of these two rooms could be to show that they are the same room, being used at two different time periods. Staying on topic of the FNaF 4 minigames, I want to quickly talk about the layout of Fredbear's in this minigame. We see the main dining area as a long room, which leads down to a door, which is implied to be a safe room of some kind, since we see, later on in another minigame, William Afton helping someone into a Spring Bonnie suit before the door shuts. This layout is actually very similar to the layout of the restaurant in Follow Me from FNaF 3, which is the same restaurant as FNaF 1. If you compare it, both minigames have a stage show, which leads down to a safe room. In fact, if you put these two maps side by side, the door to the back room in Fredbear's is actually where the safe room door in Freddy's would be. And both times we see inside this room, the animatronic we see inside is none other than Spring Bonnie. which could be an intentional detail by Scott in order to remind us of FNaF 3. Let's take a look at a different piece of FNaF media now. The Week Before, the interactive novel that acts as a prequel to FNaF 1. Since this book actually contains a surprising amount of supporting evidence for this theory. In the book, Ralph actually comes across an old faded green ticket, which is from Fredbear's Family Diner. The ticket is covered in what Ralph assumes is tomato sauce, and you can choose to use the code on the back of it. This ticket being here is interesting because this is in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. So the pedestal dispenser producing a ticket from Fredbear's should raise a few eyebrows. Not to mention the tomato sauce the ticket is covered in might be blood. Maybe even blood from the Bite of 83. Later on in another part of the book, Ralph finds a spare Freddy head in the back of the restaurant, which he identifies as one of the earlier models from the Fredbear days. These objects might be left over from when this building used to be Fredbear's Family Diner. Not to mention, a spare Freddy head from the Fredbear era being in the back of the restaurant could actually give more credence to the idea that both back rooms from each location are indeed the same. But here's where things get really interesting. In one of the endings to The Week Before, where Ralph hears a recording of the Big Bite and is then attacked by the crying child's ghost, implied to be inhabiting Golden Freddy or Fredbear since Ralph gets bitten, this implies that the crying child is haunting Freddy's. Which is strange, since the event that led to his death, that being the Big Bite, happened at Fredbear's. So why would his ghost be haunting Freddy's, a seemingly separate building? This has been honestly one of the most strangest parts about the idea of Crying Child's spirit haunting Golden Freddy, since he is thought to have died outside of Freddy's. But if this building had previously been Fredbear's before becoming Freddy's, then his spirit going on to possess Golden Freddy makes a ton of sense. His spirit didn't wander off and haunt another random building. It's the same building, explaining why he's here. In this book, Ralph also mentions that the wiring in this building is ancient, implying it's a pretty old building, which could give credence to the idea that this has been a location before Freddy's was even a thing. One last thing I want to discuss about The Week Before is actually an idea that comes from fellow YouTuber Candy Bunny. I'll link her video down in the description. Please go check her out, she makes great content. In this video, Candy Bunny dissects one of the endings of The Week Before, where Ralph gets lost while crawling in the vents inside Freddy's. The vents being so expansive they seemingly go on for days. Ralph eventually finds human bones inside, before succumbing to exhaustion and perishing himself. Candy had the idea that these vents might be so expansive because they connect to more than just Freddy's, but also connect to Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental, a location which already connects to various other locations through vents, which is what we see on the Breaker Room map in Sister Location. And you know what location we see these vents connect to in the Breaker Room map? That's right, Fredbear's Family Diner. So if Freddy's and Fredbear's are the same building, then these vents leading from Freddy's to the Sister Location bunker would be totally possible. Pretty crazy, right? Well, we're not done yet, because now I want to talk about the Into the Pit game. In this game, when Oswald goes back in time to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, he finds a storage room with a Golden Freddy suit and posters for Fredbear's Family Diner. Now, these hanging here is also very interesting, but if you use the phone given to you in the game and call the phone number on the Fredbear's Family Diner poster, 1-800-083, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza picks up on the other end, with a special meal offer for a golden bite with 83 slices. Calling the number for Fredbear's Family Diner and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza answering could imply that these are indeed the same restaurant. Now I know the canonicity of the Into the Pit game is dubious to most people, and I don't personally believe it's in the same continuity as the other games myself, since the pizzeria is entirely different from the other games. However, I do think it can be used for lore clues, and this pizzeria is shown to be some alternate version of the FNaF 1 pizzeria, since it has the classic animatronics, a security office, and Ralph is even shown working here, with him commenting they're looking for a security guard. Something most people missed when they played Into the Pit was actually the announcement that plays over the intercom when Oswald first travels back in time to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Have a listen.
Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life. Our animatronics may be cute and friendly to look at, but remember, they are complex machines and can be dangerous. Please do not get too close to them. Please do not touch their torso, arms, or face. please do not shove yours or anyone else's head into their mouth. Again. Fazbear's Entertainment is not responsible for damaged property or persons as a result of interaction with the animatronics.
The announcer specifically tells people that nobody should shove someone else's head into the mouths of animatronics. This is very clearly referencing the bite of '83, where that exact event happened. But it's also interesting that this announcement is being made at Freddy's. And they say, again, like it happened before. Well, if this Freddy's was indeed originally Fredbear's, then it makes sense why they felt the need to remind people of that event, since it happened in this same building. If that's the case in the End of the Pit game universe, this could also be a clue towards what it is in the mainline universe as well. Finally, if the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza from the first game and Fredbear's Family Diner are indeed the same, this would actually help explain why Happiest Day is shown to connect to both Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and the missing children's incident, but also, at the same time, shown to be extremely connected to Fredbear's and FNaF 4, with the Happiest Day map literally being an inverted version of the Fredbear's map, and all of the minigames that set up Happiest Day all connect to the bite victims' memories of that week in some way. I think all of this evidence put together actually makes an extremely convincing case for Fredbear's Family Diner and FNaF 1's Freddy Fazbear's Pizza being the same location. In many ways, it helps explain some of the weirder parts of the lore, like how Crying Child's spirit somehow inhabits Golden Freddy, and why Happiest Day connects to both Freddy's and Fredbear's. I never gave this theory much thought for a while, but after reviewing the evidence, I think the argument for it is actually very solid and worth considering. The FNaF 2 movie is almost upon us, so remember to watch out for spoilers. Have an awesome day, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the flip side.